Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and add to this video to help push the message out. Thank you. Well, everyone, on this one, it's gonna circle around Widow Sherm, Fox, and a camarada, or a couple camaradas, should I say, from carnales, right? And basically how having one of their homies up there in the bay will come into play time and time again. You know, first off, I want to speak about Bala, right? Bullet from Carnales. He was there in Ironwood when I was there, and that individual was nothing but pedos. Just he had a mentality of a child, just straight up. Cause even a child can get, game banging is game banging, but it's not allowed inside. Period. Point blank. There ain't no way around it. And he was set trip. He was set trip a lot on the camaradas from South Lows, and remember the homie Trusty and others who tell me, "Hey, what's up with this fool? He's disrespecting us straight on." We would have to finesse things to the point to have the camaradas defend their pride and homie get checked. And, it just got old. It sincerely got old that he just couldn't stop, Not just with the homies from South Lows, right? With Florencia, with I believe he got into it one time with the homie with Negro from Bratz. And he thought it was gonna be the same, basically, every time he would do something like that, he was just gonna receive a butt whooping. But it just became a point that it just wasn't tolerated no more, right? He was bringing too much chaos. So again, keep in mind at this time, I've said it before, you know, those are decisions that one as a llavero has to call. Like I gave the homie a lot of passes, right? For him to get right, for Vatos to speak to him. And he didn't want to, you know, I wasn't going to bother Terco in this case, right? By telling him, hey, I had homie south-sided, I had homie disciplined time and time again, and he still don't want to listen. He's a headache. He would turn around and tell me like, hey, Chino, why you bothering me with this? If he's causing chaos in the program, then that decision should be clear. And I don't want to hear of it, you know? So, anyways, I will make that call, in Ironwood where he had to bounce, and again, giving the homies respects that he was disrespecting, I allowed Dopey from South Los and the homie from Hawaiian Gardens, because he even disrespected a homie from Hawaiian Gardens, right? with the same placazo as him to go ahead and remove him, period. He wasn't welcome back. And the homies, they were glad to do so, right? Like I said, they had bumped heads already, and they were level-headed enough to not act, right? So, anyways, that came into play. Homeboy got hit. He didn't say nothing. He went to the hole, patched up, and then he thought he could come on CR like nothing, right? But by then, that's when I get at Terco, like, hey, look, this and that, this was no good. He happened to land on CR now. Oh, don't trip. I'll get whoever was in charge over there, right? Make sure he gets dealt with. That was one situation. I never heard nothing of it. At the end of the day, I was to prevent the program to become a chaos, right, amongst camaradas. There was already enough of that. Now with set tripping and all that. To have a knucklehead always starting pedos. That in reality, that's street stuff, right? It ain't for it to see the yards. But anyways, now go to Tehachapi, Corcoran, and I mentioned it before, briefly. I didn't really get into it, but I had a celly, Big Louie from Carnales, and when we were in the cell, I moved in with them because where we were at, every celly he had, they would ask right away, like, hey, Chino, I can't stand this dude. I don't want to interrupt the program, so I need to get a cell move. So it was time and time again, right? That same issue. So at least I always try to be considerate, right? With camaradas. So I would end up selling up with him. I told Big Lou, hey, homeboy's gonna come up with my celly and I'm gonna move down there with you. Todo bien, right? Firmes. And once I was inside with him, everything was cool. Like at first, it was all respect. He shared things like things I didn't want to know. You know, it's just things you should not share amongst camaradas. But then again, I never pass judgment, right? For example, I know his hood is in South Central. I know he's close to Avalon, I believe. But show me pictures on the streets. He had the swag of a brother, haircut, everything. And I mean, I couldn't put myself in his shoes because I didn't grow up like that. My city's in the Bay Area, but it's not even norteños are like that. And so we left it alone. We left it at that. But what this individual had, he was a dirty individual first and foremost, right? And me personally, I like to hit the pad at least twice a day. Every time I worked out twice a day, and the sink had to get hit. If you used it, if you burped bad, just out of respect for the next man, right? And he just was a dirty individual, right? He didn't really like cleaning after himself till I told him, like, hey, fool, you know, I don't care where we come from, but in this cell, this ain't cracking, you know. You disrespect me like this, and we're gonna have battles. Keep in mind, I was known to be mellow, sincerely. You know, people used to say, if you can't get along with Chino in the cell, you got problems with yourself. And you know, I'm always real respectful. But the one effect he had the most was he felt he was a bag of, because he was in touch with his homeboy Clumsy. I don't know the individual, right? Me personally, I don't know Clumsy. I have not been to the Bay. But, once it comes out and a couple times, then I go ahead and request to know, who this individual is and why you have a cat out here in Corcoran doing foul stuff and then throwing the name around. Like, he's gonna shield him, right? Because as far as I know, he's just another camarada. And well, it came back. I guess the homie, he was up there in the Bay. He was validated, and he was in touch with a lot of his homies, right, from his neighborhood. I don't know how big Carnales is, but I guess they're in a couple spots, and he was in touch with homeboys from his neighborhood in different spots, not just South Central, right? And anyways, then the day I got fed up, and next time I heard him like, "Hey, you know my homie comes," I told him, "I don't care who your homeboy is. You know, I I could tolerate pretty much everything, but once I'm fed up, I literally just, you know, from 0 to 100 and ASAP." So we left it alone. The one thing I hated the most is, well, you guys know me. I don't like to argue. I'm sincerely like that. I'm in person. Even when I was busted, there's no need to argue. There's no need to cross words in a disrespectful way. None of that. It's just, we don't like each other. It's let's boogie. Let's knuckle up and vámonos. You know? And anyways, he loved to argue. He thought he knew everything, right? He was just one of them individuals. And I'm the opposite. Like, I would play dumb, literally, to avoid them type of conflicts, right? I'm always been real secure, so I know what I know, and I could care less what the next man knows, right? And so when I hear someone that wants to argue, even though he's wrong, I just go, "Oh, all right. Well, I didn't know that, homie," and I let go of it. But this individual, it was every day for one reason or the next. And I remember I'm on my bunk, right? And I'm lifting bag, and this individual starts going off on the way I'm doing the bag. And I didn't ask, none of that. And keep in mind, I'm already fed up, right? I had already shot word, hey, this individual's been a problem. I moved in with him. He's been a problem ever since I've been here. And if he keeps it up, I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna go ahead and put tips on him. You know, he really thought, cause they call him Big Lou, right, for a reason. And anyways, that day I just, without glorifying it, I just popped. I got down, I put on the curtain in the cell, and I told him like, "Hey Lou, pick up your mattress, fool. Put on your shoes or lace up, fool." He's like, "Nah, Chino, nah, nah, f that. You always trying to hook me into an argument, this and that. I don't argue, homie. You know, our arguments is we're gonna rumble. We're gonna get them up, fool. All that back and forth, that's definitely not me, right?" To make a long story short, I'm not gonna say I bullied this individual, but I just disliked them so much. I put tips on them, and then I might have taken it overboard, right? Like afterwards, every time I try to speak, I just shut him down. Literally. And it was basically to see if hopefully the next individual he served up with, he would stay quiet, right? He would change, at least think about it, you know. And I even told him the reason I moved in with you was to give you the last chance, fool. This time it's just knuckles. Next time you're done. So, anyways, pushing on, I would end up hitting Pelican Bay, and his homeboy had it out for me, grumpy. And I just let him, because like I say here, it's always good to allow an individual. The truth always comes out, and it's always good to give an individual rope to see how much rope it takes to hang himself, right? So that's what I did, because unknown to him, I had years doing things for Sherm, just 99. We're talking about 2005 when this is happening in the Bay, right? And then Fox, I know Fox and Corcoran without going into what we were doing and all that. So, anyways, it happened with Sherm, right before he took off, and he tried to do a power move on me. He tried to make up some things, uh, guessing in his head, I want to wash him up with Sherm. At the end of the day, Sherm knows me, he don't know him, type of thing, right? So when Sherm got at me and told me, "Hey, Chino, check this out." We were on this side together. He, I just told him, "I don't know the individual. He's mad because of and this, and these are the reasons behind it. I followed all the proper guidelines. Oh, you don't gotta tell me. This individual's been quiet for a while. He hasn't brought anything to the table. I think it's just maybe time to retire him, right?" But the one thing that saved him, in all reality, was he had been sitting down for a while, like Sherm has said, right? And he went to committee, and that note came that he was going to be kicked out under inactive, right? So Sherm just told him, hey, keep Chino's name out your mouth. You know, everything he does correctly. And that was supposed to be the end of us, right? And he hit New Folsom. When he hit New Folsom, he said Sea Yard to be exact. And up on Sea Yard, he didn't last nothing. He tried to build a seat, you know, and represent not just Sherm or Fox or, you know, other Phillies. He just wanted a seat though to make some failure to shoot back up to the bay, right? As he should. But he got told on right away. Them individuals in New Folsom at the moment, they were with the weenie stuff, right? They were doing funny stuff to stay there, and then they seen someone come out with a little bit of authority. They were straight up have squad on speed dial and stuff. They would remove him right away. You know, the coward way. When he went back to the hole, got revalidated before he left back up to Pelican Bay and got put in single cell. That's when they moved on him, you know, and they hit him. They removed him, and it had nothing to do with me. The problem lied in Louis. Louis hit a linea because our issue happened on Aya, right? The shoe side, normal shoe. So he hit the linea and Kern Valley, and he tried to play that card. You know who my homie is? My homie's Grumpy from Los Carnales, and you know how much who he had, and just put his homeboy on blast to the wrong individuals that related that to their Billy, and Louis got wet, and then it circled around. And who the hell is Grumpy? No, he's right here right now. He's on his way back. Well, since he's touchable right now, go ahead and remove him so that he knows his place when he gets back to the bed. And that's what happens, you know. Basically, that's the inlet, you know. Sometimes you're doing everything correct, but you gotta go with the expectations. You know, there's ain't no such thing as a solid side. Of course, GP will always be a lot more than that other side, right? But even in GP, they're telling to, cause for their benefit. For example, tell me if you really think Mexican mafia members as a whole, I'm not gonna nitpick names, are not telling. In Corcoran, in Tehachapi, in Pelican Bay Shoe, you don't think they were speaking with SWAT? Do you really think now that they're on mainline, they don't go into that program office and SWAT basically leans on them for problems, and they you think Mexican mafia stays quiet, don't speak back to SWAT? They're the ones always talking to SWAT. They call it peace talks for respect with the COs, right? what do you call it? That look is that, you can know a homie from your neighborhood your whole life, but once in the system, you know, they could be always of a use or a partner, should I say better, excuse me, to do things right, depending on the circumstance. But do know there's always another camarada waiting to hear something he could use to politic on another camarada to step forward with chest out, saying, "Hey, I did that." It's a dog eat dog world. There's no carnalismo. With this said, I hope I made sense, everyone. When this goes up, I might have to go up too. So if you don't hear from me in the next, well, I'm hoping I'm back down before chemo, but I will keep you all informed. I send my love and prayers. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones, everyone.